George is there in Dublin. Good afternoon, George.
Hi, good afternoon, David.
How are you? Go ahead, your point on this whole thing about borrowing.
I came in you were having, a couple of people were dialing in talking about, in fact, I think they were talking predominantly about mortgage arrears or mortgage debt, and you had two opposing people talking about one person who clearly hadn't overextended herself and somebody who might have done. And I just thought it was worth commenting that where is the people making the comment as to where are people demonstrating that they have been prudent and saved money and not overextended themselves? Because at the end of the day, when you sign on the dotted line for a loan, you know what you're getting yourself into, and to now be complaining about it is, I think, we just need to be aware there are some people who clearly were overextending themselves in the full knowledge they were overextending
but you
themselves,
see,
and other people who weren't.
Okay, but you see, the point, it goes back to it again, and I take your point on board, and there are people out there who are sitting, I'm not saying you are, but some people sitting high and mighty saying, I didn't get involved in all that, and good enough for these people that got themselves over their heads. But at the time, people were earning good money. We had virtually 0% unemployment in this country. People were earning a good wage, and when they went to their bank and signed the dotted line, they were signing the dotted line saying that they were able to afford to pay their mortgage. Now the economy has collapsed, and these people have lost their jobs.
And some of those people were also inflating their declared earnings to maximise their loan. When were they ever considering perhaps that they ought to be calculating their outgoings on a percentage perhaps increase in their outgoings, so that they were seen to be financially responsible? Okay,
well, they reckon there are about 100,000 or thereabouts, I think, mortgages that are in arrears in this country at the moment. Are you saying that every one of those people is good enough for them?
No, of course I'm not. No. But I just think we don't often hear the debate on the other side.
Yeah, there's no doubt that there are people that got a way in over their heads, be it with mortgages or whatever. But it just goes back to the point that anybody now that finds themselves in a situation where they cannot afford to pay their mortgage on a massive loan that they took out, they took the loan out at a time when they had a good job. And now they have no work.
No, I'm not denying that. I just think that there isn't the other side of the conversation doesn't seem to be coming through in terms of when they were doing that. Was there any sense? And obviously we're talking generally now, as we can't talk about individual people's circumstances. Were they honest, entirely honest with themselves when they were taking out that level of debt? Regardless of the job they had, because nothing, as the previous speaker said, no job is for life these days.
But surely, I mean, at the time, if you're taking out a mortgage, or if a bank, a guy in a bank is handing you 300,000 or 400,000 or 500,000 euros in a mortgage, surely he should ask for more than an ESB bill to prove that you are who you are.
But they were. You know, I took out some short-term loans, which I'm happy to say I've paid off, but I was able to get those loans with very little information given by me, and that shouldn't. Luckily, they weren't big loans.
But isn't it a case, though? Again, just going back to what you're saying there, that we were living in a time as well where the banks were acting as sales reps, where they were firing money out to try and keep up with what Anglo were doing. They were looking at the amazing figures of Anglo-Irish Bank, and the other banks are saying, we've got to keep up with these guys. Get out there and sell. Do whatever you have to do to get as much business as possible. So, you know, I was going in looking for a mortgage, and the bank was saying, how much do you want? And we'll throw in a few quid for a new car as well. I mean,
and the rest. I mean, people were
don't worry about paying back. Everything's hunky dory.
And buying everything brand new. I mean, I just think we need to be careful to suggest that everybody was unfairly caught out. Are the same people who are complaining the same people who took 2 holidays a year and replaced the car and shopped in Dundrum every weekend for non-essential items? I just think the debate needs a certain amount of balance.
Well, I think Matt Scully, who's on the line, or Matt Scally in County Westmeath, may agree with you. Good afternoon, Matt.
Hello.
How are you?
I'd agree with that gentleman there, because people lost the run of themselves. It was always a rule that you would be a member of a building society, that you would save up 30%, and you got 70% of a loan. Now, people now, at that time, we'll say, people hadn't the education they have now. They have plenty of education now, but very little, they lack common sense. They lost the sense of value, because they were hearing all the tripe that was in the papers and said by auctioneers and by people, economists writing. I remember reading a report in the paper where there was 1,769, wherever they got this, new millionaires in Ireland. They thought they were millionaires. They thought their house, the gas they called it, was gone up. I bought my house at 600,000 and now it's worth 1.6 million.
I know that, but I mean, a lot of people were saying that. There was nothing wrong with saying that if that was their family home and they were just making a point that amazing, you know, how much it's worth now. But they had no intention of selling the house.
They were believing this. A house is only a place to live. And you must, if you lose your sense of value, do you see, what was happening was, even the advertising the houses, nobody was responsible because the planners should have come in at these times and the county councils. Large 2 or 3 bedroom houses, it said, and it showed you a photograph maybe of a golf course and the sea and all this scenery.
But in that instance, Matt,
yes,
surely the person that bought those houses is the last on the pecking order when it comes to blaming. We should start at the top. Blame the politicians that gave the tax breaks, that threw money like confetti at a wedding out to the developers, gave loads of tax breaks. Developers then were going to the banks who were giving them loans. Was it David Drum that said to some company, buy anything up to 500 million without ringing me?
That's right.
And they were going then building houses upon houses upon houses. Meanwhile, the auctioneers were selling and advising people to buy them at inflated prices because this week it was worth 200,000. It's going to be 250 next week. What were people to do? There were queues outside some of these.
There were queues out, and I said it on your programme many years ago, on your programme, on Joe Duffy's programme, that the people should have, at the time when a developer started to give something out in Knocklion, an army person and his girlfriend had bought the house and paid the deposit, and when the time come, the builder put it up 35,000 on it.
But it's all relative as well, Matt. You talk to some people that back in the 70s bought their first house for £4,000 or £5,000, and they talked about it at the time as being an astronomical figure, almost out of the control, that every penny of interest rates of 20% they were paying, and that they literally couldn't almost heat the house for the first year or two because all they were doing was paying their mortgage. It's all relative.
It's true.
Like, were those people wrong at that time to be...
They done that at that time, Joe, but they saved up 30% of the price of the house. They bought maybe second-hand furniture. They were prudent. These people were wise.
Yes, and that's the point.
And what they done was...
Prudence is the point.
They cut their cloth to their measure. And they did not go... they didn't have... Like, you know, these people who have big debts also had 4x4s, big jeeps, bringing a child maybe to school 300 yards. Do you see, people go to blame things. Like my father used to tell me, you can pay too much for gold. I bought gold back in about $5.60 an ounce. Now it is, what, $1,300. But if you bought it at $1,300, that could go down. That doesn't say it's the price it is.
Okay, I want to bring Jean in Limerick in. Good afternoon, Jean.
Hello, Damien. Good afternoon.
Your point?
Yeah, my point is that I see the arguments on both sides, right? But I think that people who bought in when the market was burning hot, as they say, people who just wanted a family home, they had to pay the going price, right? Because that's the times that we were all living in. And I think that those people who did not buy to speculate or buy second or third homes or whatever, people who wanted a family home, a roof over their head, the times that were in it, the price had to be paid.
No, I don't dispute that. Am I still online? I can't tell.
Yeah, you are. Yes, you're there.
I don't dispute that.
No, your ordinary people, just the man and woman in the street, not economists, not experts.
Absolutely.
They didn't know what was coming down the line.
No, they didn't. But if they did a basic calculation on their monthly outgoings, or the percentage of their monthly outgoings that was their mortgage, don't tell me they couldn't see that there would only need to be a very slight negative correction in their earnings for them to be in a very bad situation.
No, as I said, no, they wouldn't have seen it.
They could have worked that out then, not just the last 10 months.
You know, everybody was swept away. We were the country. We were one of the best countries on the planet to live in. It was the golden age, the Celtic Tiger. Ordinary men and women in the street hadn't the ability or the know-how. Look at the people that we have supposed to be minding us, the banks, the government, when they didn't get it right. How is the ordinary man and woman in the street? And I mean people who just want a home over their head, who now everything has been pulled from under them. No jobs, no future.
I hear what you're saying, and you're right. But
there are people who should be helped.
Yeah, let's be clear that regardless of when you bought the house, whether it was deemed to be at the peak or not, surely at that time, whether it was 2001 or 2008 or 2007, you were able to calculate your outgoings and what percentage of your outgoings that mortgage was.
And at the time, right?
So you can be aware of it then, not in 2010 when it's just popular to talk about being short of money.
The earning capacity, the wages people were earning, it was phenomenal. And the people could genuinely afford those prices.
Well, could they, you see? That's my point.
Yes.
I think they could outwardly continue to maintain a standard of living.
No, listen,
but they were like a duck. They were calm on the top.
I knew carpenters, I knew plumbers, they were earning €1,000 a day.
I know, and nobody ever. I mean, while there were warnings there about the bubble and all that, I don't think anybody predicted the absolute hellhole that we're now in at this point and losing jobs. I'm going to leave it there. Jean, thanks, and George, thank you for making your point there, and Matt as well. Back with more after this.